What's up, everybody? It's your boy with the broken mic, and today we are going to be getting into the ultimate battle between live action and manga. What's better, the original or the live action remake? There's a lot to get into, and without further ado, let's get into the new series I'm starting called What's Better. For this new series, we're going to be starting off with an absolutely amazing series, one of my favorite categories of manga and anime and live action to get into right now, and that is the death games. And we're going to be getting into it with Alice in Borderland right here. Now, this series has had a live action adaptation that came out around last year, but recently, the first volume of the manga has come out. I have finished it. It's been like a day or something since the release or anything like that, and now that I finished this, I've gathered my opinions on what I think is better between the live action and the manga, and it is going to be a very, very close race, honestly. It is not like your other live action adaptations where you're like, oh, this one's clearly horrible, the live action is not faithful, it's completely trash, it's nothing like the original, and it's absolutely horrible. This is honestly a very good live action, and this is a very good manga, and honestly, I didn't think it was going to be this close, but getting to the end of this manga, I am pleasantly surprised to say that the live action is fairly good in comparison to this. So, we're going to be breaking it into the categories of stories, characters, the art, and the overall feeling of the story, because I'm only going to be covering the volume 1 part of Alice in Borderland. Now, this is the omnibus version, so there's like I think there's 3 volumes in this volume, so we're going to be covering... Whoa, without that going even more wrong than it ever could have, we're going to be only covering the 2 parts of what is in the manga compared to the live action, because there is more in the live action than there is in the manga, but there is still a lot of content to cover, and we are going to be getting into the categories right now. Before we get into this video, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and make sure to give me whatever you feel like I deserve for this video, even if it's a dislike. You guys won't see it, but I certainly will, and I'll cry alone at night for it. But it lets me know that you guys enjoy this type of content. Let me know what other type of series you guys want me to compare, whether it's the Full Metal Alchemist, Death Note, or any other series that has some sort of medium. It doesn't have to be a live action to a manga. It can be an anime to a manga, a light novel to a manga, or a light novel to an anime, whatever the case is. Just let me know, and I will be sure to look into it and check it out. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching, and enjoy the video. To start this off, we're going to be getting into the very beginning part of this manga, the initial thing. First game to first game, and the reason I'm doing this is because they are very different. They are not even close to the same thing. I'm gonna be throwing away the beginning part of them getting teleported because honestly, who cares? It's just the basic premise to get them set up for the game. You just set up the characters. They both do a good job. They're even on that ground. So they're started 1-1 if you want to start with the scoring system. So we're gonna be getting into the manga first game first. For the first game, they end up going to this festival type area and meeting the first character that is also in the live action, only under different circumstances. And for this game, they have to draw luck, like luck lots that they do in Japan, where you can see if you have good fortune, bad fortune, that kind of stuff. And so for this game, they each draw it. One person has good luck, one person has bad luck, and they end up getting these kind of quizzes throughout, and every time they get a question wrong, an equal amount of wrong that they were off of the amount of arrows get shot at them. So basically, if they're wrong by 3, so it's a math problem, a lot of them were just number-based, they're all number-based actually, so they're off by 3 flaming arrows get shot at them from a random location. And for this game, Arisu has to basically figure out what is going on, how to get to the safe area and pass the game. He ends up getting to kind of initially figure out what's going on because they end up asking him the population of Earth. They're off by like 100 million, so that means 100 million arrows get shot at them. And so what they do eventually Arisu ends up figuring out figuring out that each quadrant is different and there's only one safe quadrant, and they end up finding it, getting to the safe area, and they pass the first game. And that's kind of the premise for that one. And now for the live action one, it's completely different. They end up going into a building starting at the top floor, and they have to basically like ascend or descend the floors and pick between alive or dead, and each one is different for figuring out where the floor doors lead them, because one will kill them and one will keep them alive. In this one, there's an extra character that basically sets up the premise for it, so she ends up running into the wrong door, ends up getting killed, and things get very real very quickly for these guys, and so the whole thing gets ended up flipped on their head, and we get to see Arisu in this situation figure it out through like the game mods to see how the game works, and a lot more in-depth kind of a thing for it. I mean, the manga does have this kind of like, okay, 4 quadrants, this one's safe, the rest aren't, but this like 9x9 puzzle that's going on in the other one that is in the live action is pretty cool. And basically you choose between each door, and they have to get out before the time is up, and there's like a minute they can get in between each door, and if you don't pick, a giant wall of fire just goes up and basically lights them on fire. Which one is better? Now that is the big question here. And the winner of the first point, because there is a winner, I am not tying these two, and it is the live action. I am not joking. I am 100% serious. I love the intro to Alice in Borderland from the live action way more than I do in the manga, because the manga has this like, ooh, like it just feels, you know, it's very anime-ish in the style. It's like, okay, you go here, and then like these flaming arrows from wherever, and nobody knows what's happening for them, and like the whole lot thing is like that. I like how small and quartered this kind of claustrophobic feeling and insanity that gets brought on from the live action game so much more. I think the game itself is so much more of an intro game than the other one, than like this random luck kind of like draw and just guess randomly. Although the door one is the same thing, but something about the pulling the luck and the pulling those cards like that, they're cool, and I love it, and it was pretty cool to see, and it was nice to have a completely different first part than the live action, just for an entertaining standpoint of already seeing the live action. I just didn't feel quite as like this intensity to the game, because it started off very big, 100 million arrows. It's like you can't even fathom that kind of thing. But like a room getting set on fire, and if you go into the wrong door, you basically get shot by this like deadly laser, which I know isn't the most accurate thing in real life thing. I'm not trying to compare this to like realism, but it seems a lot more easy for the brain to comprehend than like, ooh, 100 million arrows, because it's like if the 7 Deadly Sins intro was that. Like, they just start completely over the top, and then it sets a really big bar for the rest of the games throughout it. Because, like, then you get to the next game for the manga, and then you're just in a apartment complex getting chased by a dude with an Uzi, or not an Uzi, a MAC-10, and you're trying to find the right door. Like, the scale of the two, like, punishments don't seem like they scale up properly, to me at least, or like the intensity of it doesn't like match to the levels that they should. Like the doors and like trying to run through and like very claustrophobic kind of feel matches the vibe I feel of the second game better, and I think it flows better in the story with that first game to that second game rather than the manga to the next one. So I'm going to have to give the point to the live action. For the next category, we are getting into the characters. Now, the characters in these shows aren't much different besides a very distinct visual look between some of the characters. Like, Arisu looks very different between each other, but similar enough to where it's not a big deal. The big difference to me are the two kind of supporting characters for that. Those two characters are Chota and Karube. Now, both of these look very, very different from the manga and the live action. Those are the two biggest differences besides when you get into later with the second game with the character with the white hair, which that one I straight up just prefer the manga one over the character in the live action. But these two here are my most distinct different characters, specifically Karube, because in the live action he doesn't have that same like tough guy meathead or like leader type quality thing to him just based on his body type and how he looks. It doesn't really match with the character that I feel like he should be rather than the manga. And the manga, I believe, overall, for each of the characters are better, although I do prefer the way he looks in the live action for Chota than I do for the manga. I think the wacky looking face he has in the manga compared to the live action, I think the manga fits his characters better and the more of just like, this is what I would figure this character type would look like. And so this round is a pretty simple manga, takes it back and ties it back up. I just like the way they look better. Overall, they act the same in the manga to the live action. The character types are the same. Each one fills a role just as they should. So there isn't much different there. But the way the characters are modeled, the manga beats it overall. It's just better in quality overall. Now, the overall story flow is pretty much the exact same, and they kind of have that same rhythm and rhyme, and they go through it the way they should, besides the story elements being different throughout it. But which one has a better overall story? Because the second game is also different from the game in the manga, but not as different. They're both in the apartment complex, and they both have the same characters, but things go very differently in the games throughout of it. Like, the second game in the live action actually has 2 people playing tag, and the one in the manga only has 1 person playing tag. And now that completely adds a different feel for it. And the way they end up beating the game of having one of the characters get involved in one way compared to how he gets involved in a different way in the manga are both also very different. Now, which one does it better? Honestly, in my opinion, it's hard to say because I like the way that the white hair character, sorry, his name is slipping my mind right now. I like how he saves Karube in the manga version, but I like the 2 characters of tag and like how that was kind of the reveal in the live action, how there ended up being 2 players in tag. And I also liked how when they had that plan to beat the person in tag, how it didn't work, but it kind of worked because it felt more climactic and added a lot more tension in the live action than I think it did in the manga, because the manga is like, okay, unbeatable character, you can't do anything about him, and he's just gonna do whatever he can and pretty much be unstoppable. And also, I think that the live action for the second game did a better job at adding that intensity to like the 3, 2, 1 countdown with the 2 people in tag, and the way that the white hair character ended up helping out Arizu and Usagi, I believe her name is, and she involves herself in a much cooler way than I think that the manga did. And I think that the intensity overall was a lot better in the live action than they did it in the manga, because the manga was just very much, hi, I'm here, tap, boom, it's over, character had exploded, and they're done. But in the game of tag in the real life and the live action version had a very much better way of showing that intensity and making it really feel like they might lose at the end for it. So I much prefer the live action for it. I really liked how the manga, though, did the in-between part for the games. Like, after they got out of that first game and they were in the hospital with Chota and having him heal up, and then they were fishing, you got to see a little bit of the past for Karube, and you got to see a little bit of that girl's past, and it was a very, very well done in-between scene that really pulled the characters together, added that dynamic to the characters, and made it really feel like they were becoming a group together, and added that kind of bond that you were later going to see kind of get tested in that Game of Hearts, if you guys know what happens in the live action. But overall, for the story, it's hard to say which one's better because they are so different. But if we're going to go off of my personal opinion, and this is my personal opinion, if you guys disagree with me, I completely understand that, because each one in its own way, it completely comes down to the subjectivity of it. But I'm going to have to say the live action did better. I like the live action more than the manga, to be honest. I think it did a great job. And now, before anybody gets on me, no, I did not watch the dub for this series. I know, I am dubs, not subs, but getting into live action dubs for things I just can't do. The voices don't sync up, and I can't focus on the series. I just can't do that kind of thing. I have to watch it subbed in there. My mind just can't watch something like that. It gets way too annoying. Like, I can do a lot for the dubs, But that's something a little too far even for your boy. Overall, though, for the manga, I still think it's a very, very solid series. I really enjoyed it. I'm going to continue reading it because I want to know where it goes on beyond here. It does a great job. The art for the manga isn't the best. It's not the craziest kind of art, but there is one panel that really stuck out to me, and that's when we first get to see the horse person in the apartment. I really like that panel. I think the intensity for the characters and the faces they make, how they look, and everything with the art itself for Alice in Borderland of the manga fits very well. I think it does a fantastic job. I just think that the live action did such a good job at changing it enough to work for a live action series without really throwing out the series as little as possible. The first game had to be changed. I 100% assume because of the budget of putting 100 million arrows and like 400 arrows, and like the CGI budget for that was probably not there, so they probably had to go with something a little bit less intensive for the series. But I think it worked a lot better, and I think it paid off a lot more for the live action to have that change of introducing the characters, because they both feel the same even though they both did different games, and I think both did a very, very good job at doing what they needed to do, which was make an amazing death game. So either way, you can't go wrong, and I do believe there's going to be a season 2 for Alice in Borderland. I 100% recommend going into the Alice in Borderland live action. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a great adaptation of the manga. I think it does a great job taking the parts of the manga that are good, keeping them, and changing about the parts that weren't the best for the manga and making it even better. But that does not mean that the manga itself is bad at all. Definitely 100% recommend going and checking out the manga. Read it. I'm telling you, it's worth it. If you like the live action, you will like the manga. It is just different than what you'd expect from getting that live action and going to the manga. But overall, it's still an 8 out of 10 series for me. The manga is. I just think the live action's a 9 out of 10. And I think part of that is because I had a lot lower expectations for the live action, knowing how a lot of the live action adaptations usually go. But overall, these are both fantastic. You can't go wrong either way you want to do it. Anyway, guys, what do you guys think? Do you think I'm right? Do you think I'm wrong? You probably think I'm wrong. There's probably a lot of manga people who are like, you are such an idiot, you dude. Unsubscribed, dislike, bad comment, and you're banned from YouTube forever. And I understand that. I know. People don't really like my opinion a lot, but I usually be saying it a little bit too much to get myself in trouble. But anyway, guys, I do hope you enjoyed this video. I do hope that you guys enjoy watching more of these videos as I make more in this series, because I really enjoyed this. It's a lot of fun to compare the two mediums and see what turns out on top. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. And as always, I will see you in another video.